Hi guys, MrRoflWaffles here. Today we're going to be breaking down the end cutscene of the Modern Warfare 3 Zombies story. Now there's technically 3 cutscenes in Modern Warfare 3 Zombies, or at least at launch there are, but the first 2 are sandwiched between all the missions that you're doing, and it's only the Act 3 end cutscene which really feels like an end cutscene specifically. So that's what's going to be our focus today. And as we go through, I'll give you a little bit of backstory and explanation of each character and their motives and what they're up to as well. Now, if you haven't seen the cutscenes at all just yet, the version without any commentary over the top is linked on the screen right now and in the description, so click over to that on my channel and give it a watch, maybe even subscribe while you're there, and then you can come back to this video for the breakdown. Also, just before we get started, I wanted to let you guys know that I just restocked my merch store, so if you haven't picked up any of these goodies for yourself yet, then what are you doing? Grab them now before they sell out again. At the very beginning of the cutscene, we see this massive ether worm screeching into the sky, clearly writhing in pain, and we see this blonde woman here covering her ears. This is Dr. Ava Jansen, and she's going to be key to the entire story in Modern Warfare 3 Zombies. So let's take a second here to break down exactly what the deal is with her. Before getting wrapped up in a COD storyline, Ava Jansen was a physicist, and she debuted this idea of Ethereum being an undiscovered element that, if enriched, could be powerful enough to pierce through the veil between different dimensions. So if you imagine different dimensions as soap bubbles that are all stuck together, Ethereum would let you break through from one bubble into another. That could be an entire other world or universe or dimension. And so Dr. Jansen debuts this idea and talks about these ideas and these concepts and really makes a name for herself in doing so, so much so that the FBI actually shut it down. They say, this is too powerful to be in the hands of the general public, and they confiscate her research, take her in for questioning, hold her in custody, and then finally let her go after the fact, after she's lost her tenured position. So her academic career is massively impacted by this, of course. Having your research confiscated on something this fiddly is never going to be any fun, and that's going to set you back a really long time. And so Dr. Jansen ended up going private with her research and being hired by a company that offered her the opportunity to continue her research into extra-dimensional experimentation. So let's return to the cutscene here for a second, because it's going to help us understand how she got from just doing research to suddenly being out in the field fighting a giant ether worm. This machine is an Ethereum neutralizer, and the neutralizer was constructed by Dr. Jansen. It wasn't just her ideas, though. It was actually combined with some of the Ethereum research carried out by a familiar-sounding name, I'm sure, Dr. Strauss, who was an important character in Cold War Zombies. And Strauss's kind of impact on the zombie storyline is actually pretty profound, because he had big impacts on key events in Zombies, both here in the 2020s, in Cold War in his time in Requiem, and in the past in Cold War during the Second World War. So this guy's really got a bit of a legacy going on. And so using Dr. Strauss's research, Dr. Jansen builds this neutralizer, and the reason that she does that in the first place is that she realizes that this company that hired her to do that research, right, they were the bad guys. And earlier in the story, she gets taken in by Operation Deadbolt, who we play as in the Modern Warfare 3 Zombies story, and she's questioned, and they're like, why the hell were you working with this terrorist dude called Zakhaev? And she was like, well, I didn't know that. I thought he was just the CEO of a research company. So to kind of fix her mistake, she builds this neutralizer knowing that Zakhaev has a vial of enriched Ethereum which can cause a zombie outbreak if ever broken and exposed to the air in the world around them. So it is highly, highly dangerous. And the fear is that Zakhaev is completely unhinged, and he might use that canister in New York or in Johannesburg or some massive city and cause a vast amount of destruction. And this is actually also confirmed earlier in the story when he says that he intends to mass produce these weaponized Ethereum canisters and therefore presumably cause mass destruction as well. The next thing that happens in the cutscene is this. She gets running, but why? Well, the neutralizer is charging up in that moment during the boss fight against this worm, and it's only once the boss's health is low, classic, that the neutralizer even gets close to completion. And she's like, well, I don't have time for this, so she just starts running over to it, and then we see this.
Dr. Jansen, wait!
That is none other than Ravenov from Cold War. So do you remember in Firebase Z when we met up with that guy who was working with Samantha Maxis and helping inform her as to what was going on? Yep, that was Ravenov as well. And the dude that we saw in the end cutscene for Firebase Z, yep, that was Ravenov. And then the dude that we saw beating up those zombies in the Outbreak Easter egg end cutscene or mid cutscene, because there were multiple cutscenes there. Yeah, that was Ravenov as well. He's a badass dude, but now he's actually getting pretty old. Because bear in mind, several decades have passed since the events of Cold War Zombies, and there hasn't been any kind of time manipulation going on like there is with the Dark Ether. Nope, this is just straight up 1 year equals 1 year. So Ravenov's getting old. But he's apparently not too old to be out in the field shooting a giant worm. So good for him. I do know, though, for a fact, that this caused him to pull about 19 different muscles in his back. He's going to be aching the next day, for sure. So Jansen runs the hell over to the neutralizer, grabs the power switch, and of course, I think it's worth calling out here, just sort of separate to the narrative components of this cutscene. It feels like a nod to classic Zombies to me, that they made the kind of pinnacle moment of success and achievement in this cutscene, a character literally turning on the power, like hitting the power switch. We've been doing that in Zombies for over a decade now, and so to see that be the kind of climactic moment of heroism in the cutscene is a really nice bit of fan service for all of us hardcore fans. Now you'll notice, she gets her hand on the switch and the screen seems to say emergency alert system, and the banner below says the system is armed and ready to use. What's strange about this though is what happens next. What I think is strange here is not the fact that there's some electricity involved, but it's the fact that if you track the direction of the flow of the electricity, it actually comes from Jansen herself. This is interesting because Jansen has already been foreshadowed as having some kind of unusual connection to the ether. We haven't known exactly what it would be, but we know that there's something going on. And so the fact that when they were designing this, the animators made it very, very intentionally clear that the electricity starts along her arm and then works its way up to her hand is a really interesting choice to me. And she also doesn't react to that electricity in any way. She doesn't flinch. Her hand isn't burned by it or scarred by it or anything. It's almost just no big deal. But it flows into the screen, and as it does so, it actually kind of gets a bit of a purple tint to it, again, giving us the kind of implication or the symbolic impression that maybe there is some kind of dark ether energy inside her that is causing this, because purple is the sort of color of the ether right now. And then this happens. Hi guys. And then Ravenov gets his second bad back of the day. Okay, she started flying. What the hell's going on? Well, clearly everything else in the world around is being sucked in really, really forcefully. But for some reason, the portal appears to have chosen Jansen. And so instead of being aggressive with her unconscious body, it just lifts her up. But notice again, the electricity flowing seemingly out of her in this moment. It appears that Jansen is unique in some way, and that unique attribute or quality is probably related to the electricity here. And even actually, if we go back in her bio, the fact that she was so focused on this extra-dimensional research in the first place is also probably related to why she's been chosen here by this portal. In fact, it might actually be the other way around. We don't fully know, but there's always a possibility that extra-dimensional forces were at work for years as Dr. Jansen was a child and then growing up and then studying, and they might have nudged things in the world here and there to encourage her specifically on a path towards her extra-dimensional research and finding out about Ethereum. If that was the case, then it may be that Jansen is actually related to certain characters who are really important from previous timelines of the Call of Duty Zombies story. And that's something that we're going to definitely have to pay a lot of attention to in the months ahead. For now, though, it's just clear that she is special and she has something that the portal wants.
Jake, you've got to get out of here! This can't be happening.
So we then see these two. One is Fletcher, the leader of Terminus Outcomes, and the other is Zakhaev, who was posing as the CEO of the company that hired Jansen to continue her research, and is indeed the same Zakhaev that you might remember from previous Call of Duty campaigns, and is the one that survived his fall once he was thrown over a railing by Captain Price, just so that we're all on the same page here. And Zakhaev keeps that enriched Ethereum canister around his neck, and it's in this moment that he's like, you know what, maybe it's time to use it. In the face of this portal, though, the canister just freezes. And this is really interesting story-wise. It could be that the energy contained within the portal and the type of being and entity in the portal, more on that in a second, is so powerful that it simply overrides the Ethereum contained within the vial, or it could be that because that vial has been enriched by man-made means instead of by ether-made means, it actually stops working when it's in the presence of that true Ethereum. Like, there's a lot of different potential explanations for exactly what the mechanism going on there is, but the short answer is that his weapon of mass destruction suddenly becomes a pointless tube of ash, and so it makes sense that that change makes him pretty shocked. So Fletcher has some quick thinking here, and knowing that Zakhaev is working with Terminus and is a good client for Terminus, he's like, you know what, I can't just let this lemon sit here. I'm gonna throw him into cover so that he doesn't get affected by everything going on outside, and ensure that his client, essentially, lives to fight another day. So this is wild. There's an entity inside the portal speaking specifically to Jansen. It is formless. It doesn't have a clear shape. It doesn't have any clear indicator that it's a particular person or a particular thing. It's just entity. But it does refer to itself in the plural, saying let us in rather than just saying let me in. So it's unlikely that this is a specific elder god, for example. Like, I don't think that we need to worry about, oh god, Cortifex is back or something, but instead it's probably some wider force within the Dark Ether. And I see a lot of people discussing the idea that maybe it's Samantha. Maybe that's Samantha Maxis, who's been trapped in the Dark Ether now, remember, for about 400 years, I think it is. And so she, by that point, will either be long dead or will have found a way to gain dominance over the forces of the Dark Ether. And so this could be her reaching out back to the real world and being like, you know what, it's my time to return, but I'm going to be Dark Ether-fied. And I think there's absolutely a possibility of that. I think that's absolutely a valid theory, but I do want us to also entertain other theories, just because I think that there's a chance that this is actually some other kind of entity, similar to how we had the Forsaken in Cold War Zombies. And I don't want to just write it off as having to be Samantha from the get-go. Like, the possibility of it being other things is what is exciting, while we don't know what exactly is going on with it, or with them, I guess, if there's more than one of them, or if it's a collective or some kind of, I don't know, like group hive mind thing. So that's exciting. And Jansen screams, and that may well be her letting them in, because the portal disappears and she is lowered back to the ground slowly before then being dropped.
Eva. Do you not remember?
No. I thought I heard a voice. Something calling from the other side.
The fact that we see this pulse in her eyes at that point indicates to me that she let them in, and Jansen is now going to be a very important character to watch, as she potentially will have some kind of ether-infused powers similar to how Samantha did. Clearly, she doesn't have full memory of the events here, and there's going to be a little bit of introspection needed over the coming months as she figures out, like, wait a sec, do I have something inside me now? And the scene then transitions to later on, once the smoke has cleared, so to speak.
Take him to the brig. Green will get the interrogation started. Nice sign of Zakhaev. He may be bloodied, but he's still breathing. Next time he sticks his head up, I'll take it off.
Soap's line here indicates that they did not find Zakhaev, so Fletcher was successful in hiding him while everything was going down.
What about the neutralizer?
Dobbs, what's the shit rep? Give me some good news.
Negative.
Initial clear on detonation, but dark ether contacts are repopulating.
That's a Russian curse word that he says to basically mean damn it.
Also picking up an energy spike in the red zone. Never seen anything like it.
Well, looks like this shit show just keeps getting better and better. Everyone RTB! Looks like this op isn't gonna be over anytime soon.
Bang, Ravenov. Ready for evac.
Solid copy. Stand by, ETA 2 minutes.
The fact that that is in the center of the red zone means we're going to definitely need a pretty big gameplay event to happen in the next update for Modern Warfare 3 Zombies to explain what the hell's going on there and for us to put a stop to it. And I think there's a good chance that it also involves ether worms, because one of the biggest elephants in the room, or worms in the Urzikstan, that we've not addressed here is the boss in the boss fight itself. And we do know that there are ethereal worms in the Zombies canon which feed on dimensional energy and are attracted to dimensional energy as well as a result. And so it may well be that the worm was aware that the neutralizer was charging up, and it was almost called to it because it could tell that a breach in dimensions was close and it wanted to feed. However, to dig more into worm lore, I've done an entirely separate video which you can click through to on the screen right now, and that'll really dig into this detail, pun intended, in a bit more depth. Thanks for watching, enjoy that next video, I'll see you there.